I'd like to start by thanking Heather Davis for foregoing her second sermon of the day and allowing me to speak in her stead. But you're supposed to be up here. That'll come in later. The title of my talk is Science Good? What really bothers me about media portrayal of scientists is that they are always evil and nerdish. The evil ones always have a Germanic or Eastern European accent. Think Dr. Strangelove, or more recently Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz in Disney's Phineas and Ferb series. The nerdish ones are designed to be objects of ridicule. Think Big Bang Theory. The characters on that program bear no resemblance to real scientists, but rather to some mass misperception of scientists. If I were to ask a 10-year-old, what are the most prominent characteristics of a scientist? I would probably get at the top 5. Evil, smart, clumsy, maladjusted, and weird-looking. I am not sure when the meme started that stereotyped scientists in these ways. Maybe Mary Shelley and Victor Frankenstein 200 years ago. Although pitiful Dr. Frankenstein was a portrait of naivete. I have known scientists with all these characteristics, but they certainly do not define the genre. I also have known some really dumb scientists and some devastatingly good-looking ones. It is not my purpose here to debunk scientist stereotypes, but to vent about them. Rather, I want to get behind these stereotypes and the scientists and look at science itself. Is science good? Will science bring us happiness through better lives for all? The short answer is yes. 2 years ago, I spoke about the role of science in soul-making, in what theologians call theodicy, rationalizing the presence of evil with a benevolent God. I described science as just one factor in humanity's progress toward the elimination of evil. You may recall DuPont's advertising slogan from 1935. Better things through living, through chemistry. Changed in 1999 to the miracles of science. And now DuPont has disappeared into the maw of Dow Chemical Company. I think it is arguable that the modern world was created by science and its practical sibling engineering. Consider life without electricity when the lights go out. The entire concept and industry was the result of developments of basic science during the 19th century, which were realized by practical and entrepreneurial people. Electrification was the key to opening every aspect of today's culture. Yet my grandfather, right here in South Texas, lived his entire life without electricity. He died in the year 1900. Movement of people and goods in our modern world depends on trains, planes, and automobiles, each of which required recent fundamental discoveries in physics. My grandfather experienced none of these. Trains existed, but had not come to his little village of Center Point. Before they lived in Lavaca County, east of us. My father was 5 when they moved to the hill country for a healthier place to live. And he remembered they walked the entire distance, almost 150 miles. That was what life was like 100 years ago, until science got grips on our culture. In the same period, the chemicals of medicine have extended our lives dramatically, even though we complain about the cost of drugs. Imagine the threat of disease without vaccines. The ravages of smallpox and polio have been eliminated. Birth control pills, an invention by the Mexican chemical company Syntex, has revolutionized our society. Imagine a world without synthetic polymers. That famous line in The Graduate. One word: plastics. As I look around this sanctuary, I see them everywhere. The carpets, your clothing, the building materials, composites in your cars to make them lighter, essentially the makeup of most objects you touch. Imagine existence without communication beyond the immediate sound of your voice. Only the words you put on paper, or entertainment other than live performance. Again, that was the life of my grandfather. First the telegraph, radio, motion pictures, television, satellites, each one a product of fundamental discoveries in physics. Modern agriculture is the result of fundamental discoveries in chemistry and biology, enabling the world to avoid a Malthusian collapse and buying us time to bring population under control. Modern life is almost entirely the result of the discoveries in chemistry, physics, and biology. Yet, there is the underside. Every one of these marvelous discoveries and developments has had negative consequences. The easiest to criticize is the internal combustion engine, which drives the economy of Texas while spewing pollutants, including carbon dioxide, into the atmosphere and causing Earth's atmosphere to warm with possibly catastrophic results. All those wonderful pharmaceuticals have brought heroin and other opioid addictions, thalidomide malformations, antibiotic-resistant bacteria. General chemical pollution can disrupt our endocrine balance, resulting in infertility, malformations, cancer, lower immunity, and the ubiquity of plastics threatens to drown us in polluting materials that never decompose. And then there is the big one, nuclear holocaust. Although nuclear energy provides one of the cleanest forms of energy and ended the Pacific War without an invasion of Japan, it is possible that a rogue country or entity could bring about the end of our civilization. So which is it? Is science the creator of modern civilization with longer lifespans, amazing transportation, communication inconceivable to our grandparents, cheap energy sources, and materials that promise to make everything better and cheaper? Or is it the cause of the heating of our planet, the polluter of our soil, air, and water, and even the ultimate destruction of much of life on Earth? Is science Brahma, the creator, or Shiva, the destroyer? I'm moving into the fabric of science to ask if the terrible results that always seem to accompany scientific advances are inherent and inevitable. Is science good or is it evil? To answer the question, I'll ask another one. This, ladies and gentlemen, is a rock. A well-washed stream rock. Is it good or evil? Does not the answer depend on what use I put it to? This is a plain rock, similar to the one my son painted 35 years ago, that still sits on my desk as a very effective paperweight. Maybe it's actually gold and has a value of many thousands of dollars. It actually looks to me like an admirable projectile with which I could do grievous damage to Wes and the camera down there, and of course to the choir. So I better set it down before I get any ideas. Or maybe it is calcium carbonate, which in one form is marble, a beautiful building material, and in another form limestone, which, when converted to cement and other things, is the source of acid rain and carbon dioxide pollution. In short, the rock is good or evil as the use I put it to. I think science is more a victim of good intentions than of evil. Certainly there are plenty of examples of good science put to ill purposes. The development of explosives and weaponized gases is possibly the best example. Most of you probably know that Alfred Nobel invented dynamite, also known as nitroglycerin, which he thought would revolutionize the construction industry. It did, but others quickly adapted it as a military explosive, the like humanity has not seen previously. Less well known is the tragic story of Fritz Haber. In the early 20th century, Haber discovered a process to convert nitrogen in the atmosphere into ammonia. Before that, only God could make ammonia through the plants known as legumes that fix nitrogen, seeming to imply that nitrogen in the atmosphere is broken. So, fixing nitrogen converts it from the inert material we breathe to a chemical that could be turned into nitrate and used as fertilizer to bring about enhanced food production that revolutionized agriculture at the beginning of the 20th century. But nitrates also are a component of explosives. Haber was a German Jew. Although a practicing Jew, he was a patriotic German first. He won the Nobel Prize in 1918, but before that he had answered his fatherland's call to produce a new weapon that would end the stalemate on the Western Front. So he became the father of chemical warfare. He served his fatherland faithfully, even converting to Christianity, until 1933, when he was forced to resign his position of professor and flee Germany. He died a year later. There is no more tragic story of a great person with misconceived ends. So science is as good as bad, or as bad as my rock. Science is as good or as bad as the scientist. That brings me back to Shiva, the Hindu god I call the destroyer. It is his duty to destroy all the worlds, and in Hinduism as well as Buddhism, there are multiple worlds, and dissolve them back into nothingness from which we came. It is his duty to destroy all of them, but his existence is more nuanced, rather like science. The word Shiva literally means the auspicious one. Moreover, he is the destroyer of evil as well as other things, and he is the transformer. Properly, he should be the patron saint of science, both good and bad. Adjectives used in Hinduism for Shiva include malignant, terrifying, invincible, honorable, brilliant, and benign, beginning with malignant and ending with benign. All words appropriate to describe science's contributions to the modern world. In contemplating this contradictory world of science, I want to finish with the immortal words of Tom Lehrer. In his paean, to the rocket scientist Wernher von Braun, highlighting science's negative. Von Braun created the V2 for Nazi Germany, and then was largely responsible for putting up America's first satellite in 1958 and defining our space program for 20 years. I can't accompany it with the piano. Maybe Diana can hawk it. But Tom Lehrer always sat at a piano when he made his presentations. But his words were about von Braun: don't say he's hypocritical. Say rather he's apolitical. Once the rockets are up, who cares where they come down? That's not my department, says Wernher von Braun.